Call the meeting in order, start with pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chairs roll away from it.
Brad should be on his way.
Okay,
That he was coming.
all right, so we will in march forward and sure we'll. Okay.
Yeah.
Minutes of 6/17, they were distributed. I had a chance to take a look at them. I'll take a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, comments, changes, additions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Public comments? Would you like to comment? Attend. Madam Treasurer, we are on to you.
Okey dokey.
We've been on to her for a long time.
Excuse me?
Side comment, just like.
All right. So we'll start with our executive summary as of June 30. So fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of 54,155,298, or 105.2% of the total amount of 51,440,042 budgeted for fiscal year 25. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 0.4% behind this time last year. So then we will move down to our authorized investment section. As of the end of June, the town had 38.4 million in its bank accounts. You will notice that our Webster account has grown a little more than usual in the last month due to our residents paying their tax bill in June for next fiscal year, which we will show in our local revenues in next month's report in the new fiscal year. So it's just a little inflated in the Webster account. In the last month, the stiff rate stayed steady at 4.48%. Today it is at 4.40. And Webster gives us the stiff rate in arrears, and last month it was 4.48. Everything is just staying very steady in that area. We're really blessed. So on June 15th, we had a treasury bond come due. We reinvested into another short-term treasury bond, $2.3 million at 4.015% interest rate, maturing on January 31, 2027. So for a total of $160,000 of interest income, with $34.5 thousand of interest income in fiscal year 26, and the remainder of the interest income, $124.5 thousand in fiscal year 27. This will be our beginning start of interest income for fiscal year 27. We have secured income of $402,897 for fiscal year 26 through short-term bonds. And I think we will definitely meet our goal of 600,000 that we have budgeted for interest income through Webster and Stiff, earning interest, most likely, hopefully, at 4%. Maybe it'll go down to 3.5%. Does anybody have any questions on that?
We budgeted
800,000. Oh, we did?
Yeah, or 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought we budgeted 6.
What was we budget?
I think it was 800, 840 something.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
change.
I apologize,
That's right.
but so,
You're right. We started at 6 and we ended up at.
yeah. I may have lost track of that. Since, that's not really my job to be budgeting it. So, with discussion, the investment committee thought we should be starting to go into 27. Because, we really don't know where the rates are going, but
Right.
I think if you look at how much, which we'll get into later in my report, how much money we've been making in our interest, we're definitely gonna get there. So. Okay?
Yep.
So then we'll move to the pension plan. At the end of June, we've received a report from Morgan Stanley. And the town pension plan is up 9.97% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 12.18%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 10.29% versus its benchmark of 11.99%. The fire department pension plan is up 9.28% fiscal year to date and has returned 9.96% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 11.99%. The new valuations are out in the pension plan, and you will see in your chart. So if you're looking at the chart on the first page, the funded ratio at the very bottom of that chart, you'll see in your chart at the bottom, the funded ratios have changed. The town plan went from 85.2 to 84.4. Even though we had a good year in the markets, which improved the funded ratio, the changing to the police pension plan slightly increased the cost of the plan, and the ratio went down. Fire pension plan went from 55.1 to 49. Every 10 years or so, the town reviews whether a COLA makes sense. During this past year, the pension board approved the increase to the COLA, and its impact was to reduce the funded ratio and increase the ADEC. As long as we make the actuarially determined employer contribution, the fire plan will be fully funded. Do you guys have any questions on that?
What was the COLA?
I don't recall. How much was the COLA, Leah?
Well, it wasn't a COLA.
Well, it kind of is. We take the CPI over the
Right.
last 10 years and average it out, and I can't remember exactly, but I would say it was like somewhere between 2.8, 2.5 to 2.
That sounds right. I think.
There were also
And
some,
then that amount then stays flat for the next 10 years. and then-
Yes.
yes, and then there were some officer incentives that were bumped a little bit on the fire plan. So the cost, the entire payment for the fire plan, we're up to about 180 or 200?
270.
Oh, 270, okay, a lot. So we'll see how this impacts next year's payment. But, anyway.
Well, we have next year's payment in the budget, it's
Right.
270, so it
270.
went from like 240 to 270, something.
Who sets that 10-year benchmark for that? Is that like an internal policy for the town, for the fire department pension?
Our actuaries do the calculation for us. We tell them we want to take a look at what the inflation rate was over the past 10 years, and they do.
No, but who decides that number? Like who in the town says, we want to look at this every 10 years as opposed to every, and not that it makes a difference, I'm just
So
curious.
there's no set policy of that, it's just been that the fire department plan is like 30 years or 40 years old. And that's kind of what they've done. So about every 10 years, actually it was 11, I think this time. The fire department, they don't forget to come to us and would say, hey, we're interested in perhaps looking at a bump in the pension. That's kind of how it goes. It's somewhat of an informal practice that we've got.
Just curious.
Yes,
I have a quick
George.
question. So, if I may, so under the authorized investment, the short-term cash management is set at 10 million. And so we don't, so the interest not get added to that, it's not accrued. So
Right.
essentially is there a reason why it's set at 10 million?
That's the principal amount that we put in, and we've been reinvesting principal plus interest. At the point where we decide to take it back, this will be what we paid.
Right.
And it's just easier for me to do it that way. And if you want to see what the change in that, so because it's a market value portfolio, there'd be a few too many levers because, appreciation, depreciation, but I can update it on an annual basis to just show what the new principal,
Probably be a good.
what the new cash level is. Did that make sense?
But
So a bond will go up and down in value.
Right, I see, sure,
So I thought it would be too confusing to explain
sure.
all the different levers, the fluctuation, market value, the new interest that got added to principal and,
Right.
it was too confusing. We put 10 million aside in that portfolio to earn rates in the market, invest it long-term to kind of offset, what's going on in the daily rate and to
Right.
kind of diversify everything. So, I will update that to what the new principal looks like.
I was just wondering whether that is a set amount versus like it could be 12 million, 15 million.
Well, every time it matures, that does get added, does to the every
It
time.
does, I see.
So if a bond was invested for $1 million and at maturity is 1.1 million, that becomes the new principal or new bond.
I see.
So every time we're buying, every time a bond matures, it was originally, we bought it for 2 million, now we're buying it for 2.2 million, and then
I
we're
see.
buying it again for 2.32. It accrues, it keeps building into more.
I see, right.
But you're also seeing it broken down here in the interest.
Right.
So, but I know what you're saying. I wouldn't mind seeing that
Yeah, yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
So the 402,897,000 that you referenced before, that could actually just be added right into that 10 million.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna continue on a little bit with pension. So Mr. Nichols, our advisor at Morgan Stanley for the pension. I gave you each two little packages. So he sent me the two enclosed reports on the town and the fire pensions for you all. So I think when you saw him, was it last summer? You guys met him?
Yep.
Okay. So I think in 2005, the pension became a spending portfolio. I don't know if he told you that when he saw you last summer. But he wanted me to make sure I told you guys that it became a spending portfolio, which means it pays out more in benefits than it takes in contributions from the town and its employees. Okay? If we hadn't invested the money and put the funds, as they say, under the mattress, the fund value would only be $4,815,000. But because we invested it the way we did, we have over $29.6 million. So it shows how the portfolio is well invested. Net cash flows out of the portfolio over the past 10 years have been $6,282,581. But the dividends and interest generated by the portfolio have been $5,696,445. And despite the withdrawals, the pension fund has grown in the past 10 years from 20.5 million to just over 29.6 million today. And these charts basically just show you the allocations of cash, equities, bonds, and things of that nature. And portfolio is doing very well. Any questions there?
So, good question. So in the town pension side, the change in value of 1.9 billion. In the second row.
Yes.
So the past month, despite the fact that we're actually paying out more than bringing in, we're still up by 1.9 million.
I don't know if we're paying out more than we're bringing in every month, or,
So that's the,
yeah.
gains or losses on the
Sure.
principal.
Right.
So it doesn't take into consideration the cash flow, it's just a change in
Right.
value of the portfolio.
I see.
I mean, so like my next statement I'm gonna say is our total cash balances are 38.4 million. Our total pension balances are 31.4 million. Last month, I think I told you our total pension balances were 30 million, so they've just keep growing. And the stock market's doing well, but still got some volatility going, yet, it just shows that we are invested well. So, I think
So there,
it's doing well.
he also, or Milliman projects that, we will reach maximum stress on the pension within 5 years, by the end of the decade. In other words, it'll start the payout will start coming
Right.
down because of the defined contribution plan basically taking over. So
Town's contribution will start going down.
the town's contribution will start going down too, but So, a few more years, we've been at it over the last 10 or so, kind of getting to where we are now, and, it's a DB plan, you wanna make sure you can pay the retirees, right? And once we get to a certain point, we should be in good shape and just have the defined contribution plan, but that won't be for 25 years. That'll be around. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Well, when we made the change, John, on July 1, 2017. I said the same thing. I said, this won't benefit me as first selectman, but I thought it was a good long-term plan for the town. So same thing. And it has, I just thought it was the board at the time thought it was a good long-term plan for the town.
Yes, true.
Are there any, what are the odds that the police department will ever go to a defined?
Yeah, towns typically not, especially in the environment we are, where it's harder to hire public safety workers. There are fewer towns now than there were 5 years ago with defined contribution plans. Towns have gone to a DC and then gone back to a defined benefit plan.
Really? Wow.
Because it's kind of what public safety demands. So unlikely
Okay.
that it's something that I would seek to negotiate.
Understood.
Okay. Okay, so
The dispatchers are on a defined contribution plan, just not
Oh, good.
the police officers.
Public sector, private sector, almost zero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and by the way, the police officers also have the option to be in the defined contribution plan if they chose to. So they can opt out of their defined benefit plan. When they come in,
Yes, one time.
not at any time, when they first choose.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Let's keep moving.
That's it.
Okay, so we can move to page 2 of the treasurer's report. Okay, guys? So tax revenues were a negative 37,000 for the month due to a TIF.
Tax incremental finance.
I have that written down, a tax incremental finance for Mariner Way, which was a transfer though, which doesn't make sense to me, of 40,442. Bringing the fiscal year to date total to 50,337,485, or 102% of the amount budgeted for fiscal year 25. So in the state portion, from the state of Connecticut, we received $9,333 for special ed. And state shared revenues, we received 46,717. It looks like it was our only payment this fiscal year. So any questions there? In terms of local revenues, the town collected 232,077 locally, or a total of 268,837. Local revenues for a total of 54,155,297, or 105.3% of our fiscal year 25 budget. So interest income for June was $76,960, and for fiscal year 25 so far, $1,248,510 of interest income. So under local revenues, we will be transferring the $100,000 from mini golf to the Park and Recreation Strategic Fund in July. So this number has yet to come down. This was disclosed in the annual budget and will be transferred during the closing of the fiscal year in July. And so far for fiscal year 25, we have a surplus of $2,715,255. And that's it for me.
So 2.7, but of that 2.7, 100,000 is going to the Parks and Rec fund, right?
Right.
So that would be at that point,
2.6.
Okay,
So. I have a feeling there's more.
okay, any questions, any other questions for the treasurer? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Me,
Okay, so I will start with an update, since we're gonna be talking about how we're gonna spend our surplus, I'll start with an update on, section at this point in time. So I did a sneak peek into July. And as the treasurer was mentioning, we did, transfer already the $100,000 to Park and Rec, and we also brought in, $82,000 more in revenues. So it looks like it's gonna be $2,750,000 about revenue surplus. That's almost finalized. So that's on the revenue side. And then for the town, at this point, we still are not done paying our bills, and we have about $500,000 underspend, whatever surplus, I don't know how we want to call that, but I do know that we're doing a pay run this week, so that'll probably come down, but for tonight's discussion, I'll assume 500,000. I think it's gonna be a little less than that. So our projected surplus 3.3 million, and I don't know what is gonna happen with the Board of Ed, so we're gonna just have to wait and see what their financial situation looks like. And they usually ask for it to go back to them, but that's up to them and yet to be seen. On the finance director's report, I'll just turn to.
Leanne, can I ask a question about?
Yes, of course.
In the, yeah, in your report in the last, previous bill, we have that, the Board of Ed, we have a, year-to-date expenditures,
Yeah,
that is as of when,
June 30, so, it's called July the 13th month, and we're still processing lots of things. That number will come down. It won't be, over $1 million or whatever. It looks like it's right now they have $1 million surplus, but it won't be that much.
actually, it looks like they've got about a $2.7 million now.
So, the budget is 29.8.
Oh,
And they
sorry,
spent
right.
28.8.
I was looking at.
You're looking at correct here, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so yeah, so million is where they stand at the moment. I'm sure it'll be less. Okay, so ARPA update. During June, we spent $7,417. Youth family, EBC, and social services. I hear that we're getting close to the finishing of the Beaver Dam Trail and some other things. So again, thinking it's gonna come down any moment, but it does, I'll let you know. But those projects are all going very well. On page 4, going to the cash flow. So the general fund was up 886,000. Even though we had $4.8 million in expenses and 268,000 in revenues, we did have those advanced collections like the treasurer was explaining, so that kind of mitigated that. In July, we'll have a big month as well. Capital funds were up 811,000. That's because we transferred last month. You approved the steep funding for the Berry soccer field. And so that money was transferred out of capital non-recurring into the capital funds. That's a transfer. You see in the reserve funds, they're down 1.2 million. Again, the Board of Ed spent their 284,000 for that track that you approved early on in the year. And the 875 that went to, came out of there to go into the capital fund for the steep grant soccer field. And then 85,000 for the fire department engine that you approved a while ago. Those things were all taken out of those accounts. Moving down to our long-term strategies capital, the capital non-recurring fund came down a little bit, 1.9 million. And again, it was the transfer that I just described coming out of capital non-recurring to the capital account. None of those monies have been spent yet. The fire department apparatus fund also came down by the $85,000. to fund the purchase of the fireboat motors. And now the Board of Ed is back to even 1 million because of the track, upgrade that they did. And going down to roof repairs, it's at $316. We had to recruit some roof repairs at the fire department. The Celebrate Saybrook Fund also came down a little bit as we had the celebration and we paid our bills, some of our bills. Turning to page 3, at the June 17th Board of Finance meeting, we voted to transfer $200,000 from DPW administration budget to the road and maintenance fund. That was approved at the July 8th town meeting. So that transaction has taken place. And I think that's just about it for the written part of the report. You want to turn to the last page, the charts. First, I'll go over the departments that are over budget, and then I'll go over the line of items that are over budget. So legal services, 413900, is at 103.3%, and climbing. I expect that account is not gonna go over 25,000, but we processed a few more bills that will be coming out this week. And that will, we've had a lot of legal stuff going on this past year, so that's the explanation for that. Registrar of voters is at 103%. That's de minimis, 71,000 versus 74,000. And again, presidential elections, early voting, and all of that has been explained. ZBA, 156%. The difference between 13 and 20,000. And that was due to unforeseen legal issues that has been disclosed prior to this. PD general expenditures, 113%. Again, the PD is the entire budget of those combination of those 3 categories, but the general expenditures is up. And I'll go over that in a few moments. Engineering is 106%, 100,000 versus 106,000. As you all know, about all of our grants and all of the work that we have going on around town, all of that needs engineering. That has also been disclosed as the year has been going on. Street lighting, now it's been several years since we put the LED lights in. And this is the first time in several years that this account has actually gone over. It's at 102%, 65 versus 66,000. And when I looked at it, it's actually the maintenance line item, so I think things are just, starting to go a little bit. So maybe next year in the budget cycle, we'll probably want to increase that a little bit. And then, let's see, what was that? Was my place. Waste collection, about even, but it's over 100%, so I point that out. Mini golf is 109%. 98,000 versus a $90,000 budget. Their personnel line item was $15,000 over. And, they've also taken in $144,000 worth of revenues. So what we tend to see is when we have more revenues, we also have more personnel related expense. So that's the explanation there. And the parks is also at 105%. And that has been previously discussed. And the Kate went over budget.
Yeah,
That's my fault. I misbudgeted the electric line.
you missed budget.
I guess I did. I said
So-
there wasn't anything wrong.
So, so Leanne brought that to my attention a little while ago. She said the electric is going kind of way over, so I contacted. We broker through CCM, they have a brokerage that we use, Titan Energy, and I contacted them and they said, here's the Kate's bill, here's the account. Are we getting the right rate and what's going on? He goes, everything looks fine. The usage is up and a little bit over. So maybe what we're seeing is we need to add, tweak a couple of these accounts. I mean, not a lot of money. We're talking 1,000 to 3,000, 4,000 in some of these accounts, but like the street lights, maybe we have to tweak that account, or like you
A
said,
little bit more.
like 5,000 more. So.
So that's it for total budget line items. Now for the Board of Finance line items, that individual line items within the budgets that have gone over 25,000. Some of these I've already explained last month. Police services, extra personnel is over 85,000. And again, the explanation for that was the hiring of 7 new employees and the turnover and the coverage of staff. Police service professional development is over 61,000. That's $61,000 more than the budget, that's not the total price. And again, with the new officers and the promotions and all of that, they have to be trained, so that one is expected. PD general expenditures, repairs and maintenance, 15,000. So that's, the repair of the vehicles. That's over $48,000. And I think that when we go into budget season this year, we're gonna have to maybe increase that. Because the Board of Finance changed its policy this year to say, when it used to be when outside services came back to the police department, first we would bring the fuel and then we would go to repairs and maintenance. And now we said, we'll take care of fuel, but if there's anything left over, it's going to the police vehicle reserve fund. So that's kind of, we have to budget whatever it is for that line item.
So right now, that line item for fiscal year 25 is $48,000 over.
Correct. And then, additional hours is $46,000 over. And I did, mention that last time. They've had extra hours on caseworks and investigations and become more complex, and fewer officers covering more cases is the reason for that line item. The fuel is going to be 44,000 or lots. We're not done yet, but at this point, it's $44,000 over. I did get the outside services, the amount that's going to be transferred for this year today. And that's going to be $80,000 that's going to come in. So 44,000 of that will go towards this line item. So fuel will come in even. Then the other, whatever the difference is, will go to the police vehicles reserve fund. Then we have the library. Their employee line item is over 34,000. And to their credit, they sent Carl and I an email in April and said, we're gonna go over by 33,000, so that's pretty close. They had an employee on FMLA and other for a long period of time, and when that happens, we pay the employee and then we pay for the people to be covered, and they had some other coverage issues, and they told us that was gonna happen, and it did. But their budget looks like it's gonna come in around flat, so they have managed their way through it. And I also should mention that the PD budget looks like it's gonna come in $200,000 under budget this year. So even though these other line items are over, it's still gonna be okay. And then the police also had their uniforms. Oh, I forgot my email to explain that. Anyway, so they their uniform cleaning service was over $29,000, and I was surprised about that. But with the turnover in staff, every time you have a new employee, you have to get a new uniform. They had a whole bunch of promotions, so now they had to get, a new uniforms for the promotions. And I like this answer. They don't call them patrolmen anymore. They call them patrol officers. So everybody had to get a uniform that said patrol officer on it so that they could be generic. So that costs that much money. And that is it. That is it for line items that have gone over. I have one other thing to mention, but is there anything else, any questions on all of this?
Just a quick question. So for the police department outside service or whatever they're called, there's gonna be like $80,000 transfer coming in, 40,000 goes to fuel. The other 40,000 are gonna go to that police
Vehicle reserve.
Right. We had basically budgeted 90,000 for that per year, and so this means we'll add 50,000 to that.
Or 40,000,
Well,
sorry.
yeah, it was like 30 or 40,000 to it.
Right, to bump it up to 90.
It's at 90. 90,000, we started this year, it has not, it will have, in the midst of making those budget entries, so when we're done, it's gonna have $90,000 in it, the reserve.
Right.
Then we're gonna add 40,000, so it'll be 130,000.
Oh, we're not adding 90,000 every year.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the budget, there's 90,000 in the budget, and then whatever is the
Oh.
balance.
oh, I got it, sure.
Because
Okay.
we have no more payments on
Sure.
those vehicles, we made our
I see.
last payment. So what the police department's in a little bit of transition right now, right? So my sense is that probably in 2026, at some point. They may look to change out a few vehicles, and whether those vehicles are being financed or purchased. You know, whether we wanna purchase 2 vehicles, whether we wanna finance 5 vehicles, so. We thought this was, instead of removing 90,000 from the budget, we know we're gonna need new police vehicles at some point. I don't know that they're thrilled with the Tahoes either, I hate to say that. But good news is, we're in year 5, so. But it sounds like the maintenance part of it is becoming a
yeah.
little bit of a problem. Why don't, okay.
So I just have one more thing,
Yeah,
and then
any
I'm
more
done.
questions?
I just wanted everybody to know that, so this year is Mahoney Sable's last auditing year of their contract with us, fiscal year 25. And so, I've been working with Carl and Bruce, and we've set out an RFP for auditing services. And the proposals are due back, they're posted now, they're due back August 1st. We're gonna have a selection committee of Carl, myself, Bruce, and Pam from the Board of Ed. And those are gonna go on in the middle of August, and then we're hoping that by September 16th, that we'd have a recommendation to the Board of Finance. And we did ask Mahoney Sable that they were welcome to reapply if they so choose.
And this is then, would be the auditor for the fiscal year that just closed.
No, for the fiscal year 26.
Okay.
They're right now,
So
Mahoney
we
Sable's
say we're
working
10
on
or 20.
25, correct, yes,
Got it,
and
thanks.
that's it.
Can I ask one question? When will the Saybrook Port concrete situation be finished or started and finished?
The seawall, or the,
At the mini golf where they have all those
where
rocks?
that have all the stones, they're supposed to,
Yeah.
Ray told me he was going to be doing all of that work by the end of this fiscal year. I will check with him.
Is Billy Claffey doing that, do you think, or?
He could be doing it for Ray, but they had to purchase the cement and all that other stuff, which was the appropriate.
I can text Bill and ask him,
It's no big deal. I'm down there every day. My wife keeps asking me around.
what's it called,
Concrete at Saybrook Point.
You're gonna take
And
out
does that
stones.
extend down to where the fishermen are?
Well, I
There's a
think
rock
that's,
cutting, rock section down there as well.
I don't remember, John. I know that they're replacing the stones with concrete. That's all I can, if they go down there, then they probably will be.
Okay.
Okay, other questions for the finance director?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I might just introduce the lady who's in the audience, I don't know if you're aware.
It would be, I would be delighted.
That's Heather Millardo, and Heather, I don't know her exact title, but Heather, what's your
Director of Development and Outreach.
Director of Development and Outreach at the Estuary. So that is an item on the agenda, and obviously Kate, Brett Elliott from the Cape is here too. So I don't know if the board might consider listening to these folks instead of having them sit here on a summer evening while we talk about discussion of allocation of surplus funds, but I'm just mentioning that.
I don't have a problem with that. Eric, you have an issue, do you need to have something done sooner rather than later? Okay, why don't we then jump if the
That
rest of
was
the
what I was
board.
referring to, actually,
Okay,
was swapping those two items.
okay. If the rest of the board is okay, we'll skip for the moment. Item number 8, go directly to item number 9. the consideration possible action appropriation for the Kate's repairs.
Okay, how about the, Kate, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Brett, why don't you line up?
Sure.
Yeah. So, as most of you know, you have a memo on this, the theater is a town-owned building and, the Catherine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center runs a 501(c)(3) out of it. Very successful one, I might add. But we, many of you know, we did a gutter repair project. I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago anyway,
3 or 4.
3 or 4. And my understanding is that the gutters that were there before caused a little bit of this issue, do we believe?
Lack of gutters.
Lack of gutters. And there's not a problem right now since we fixed that issue.
That's correct.
Okay, but what remains is, why don't you explain what's
Sure.
over there?
Not a complete expert, but Tom McElwee did come look at this with me. And so the lowest third of the building, the larger blocks, which have been painted over the years, there's sections where the mortar has come out, or they're peeling. It seems like particularly on the north side of the building where there weren't gutters prior is sort of the worst. That and by, the corner where the front door of the Cape, butts up against the old building or the original building. Has some pretty severe water damage. There was a pretty good water and ice dam in that corner prior to the gutter. So we got 3 quotes to do caulking repair with all the mortar and then repaint that perimeter section. And that's the project.
So this is all external.
That is correct. Yeah. It was just something we've been kind of tracking over the last probably 3 to 5 years, noticing some of the issues. And then when the gutters went on, we kind of kept an eye on it. Hasn't particularly gotten worse, but probably needs to be addressed. And so I brought it to Carl's attention.
Thanks. Questions from the board? Fairly self-explanatory. Thank you very much for coming. Joe?
I just have, exactly where is that issue? Is that in the front entrance where you have the, what do you call it? I know there was flooding there in the past.
The patio kind
The
of, as it goes into the
Right over
doors.
the awning there?
Not so much caused from flooding. It's higher than that. So if you're standing directly behind the marquee that we installed, like in that area, looking towards the front doors, that corner, there was some pretty significant ice and water issue coming there. The windows, you'll notice it around. And then if you're on the north side facing what was Estes now Saybrook Well, and you sort of look about eye level along that, you'll see sections where the mortar is missing between some of the larger blocks. And so they would come in, they would caulk that and protect it. Tom and I walked around and he's like, yeah, that really should be probably taken care of. It's a 110-year-old building and just let's not let it get any worse.
So none of the columns are affected at all by any of the.
No,
Okay.
yeah, not currently, no.
We did column repairs too, a while ago, we did that.
Yep.
No, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. So, originally Brett came with 1 or 2 quotes and I said, it looks like it's an under $25,000 job, why don't we get a 3rd quote? And we did. And the quotes are all very close to each other. So it looks like everybody has the same idea of what needs to be done. So,
All right. Hearing no questions, I'll make a motion to make an appropriation in the amount of $21,500 from capital non-recurring for the purpose of repairing a portion of the foundation of the Catherine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center. Further to move this motion to town meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. I guess I'll only ask one question, and that is there an urgency associated with this?
Not particularly, no. I wasn't pushing for it to be at a certain moment. It's something we've watched for a few years, so.
Right. I guess it could be, 6 one way, half a dozen the other, doing this capital non-recurring versus out of surplus.
Yeah.
So,
exactly, 6 of one, half
Yeah.
dozen of another.
Okay.
So,
okay. So, motion made, seconded, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
We will move on to the next item, appropriation for new flooring at the estuary. And Heather, thanks for doing
I
this.
can tell it's taller. Figure out. Can you just lower if you want?
So Heather, we've actually had a lot of conversations over the months, and then I've seen this floor project come along. Now, I don't know how many of you have been to the estuary, but they have this gorgeous piece of property, a beautiful back patio. They did a lot of work over there, and the interior room is probably pretty dated. And it's a rentable space. I think we all know that. I think we've all been to events there, or maybe have been invited to events there that either the political parties have had or other people have had. And it is truly can be a great space, and you rent it out, and it is a revenue generator for the estuary. And Heather and I were talking at Judy Sullivan's retirement party. And we were talking about this, and I said, well, bring it to us. It's not a town building. This is a completely separate 501c3, but it's a 9-town estuary, and the way I look at it, it benefits our town. I was mentioning it to Leanne today, and she goes, oh, my husband now goes to the estuary, just recently.
He's retired.
And I'm like, this, for a couple reasons. I think it benefits Old Saybrook residents more than it benefits anybody else, any of the other residents. And number two, with a lot of the federal or state money, I don't know if it's in jeopardy or not, but I know Meals on Wheels is a super important program for the estuary. I felt like anything we can do to help the estuary generate more income and maybe really dress that room up to make it more of a desirable place to have an event, might be a good idea. So Heather came with a memo. We were talking about $10,000. I said, well, what do you really need? Because, the fundraising has been a little lackluster for the floor. A lot of people don't want to, okay, I'll give you money for a floor. They'd rather maybe do something else to the annual fundraiser. And she can fill in some of the details. I said, look, I'd rather come to the Board of Finance, and of course, it's your decision, with a number that if it's approved, you can get the job done and be done with this. And not have it a 6-month excruciating matching fundraiser where you're raising $10 at a time. So that's kind of sets the table. Heather, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. So the current floor that's in there is about 30 years old. It's original to the building, and what they chose to do at the time was put carpet in. And you can imagine carpet in a dining room does not go particularly well. So it is one, showing its age, but also not holding up very well. So we spoke to a couple of flooring contractors. We had three prices come in. They were all in the range of about 35 to 40,000. One of the gentlemen that we had spoken with, he had a business and then he retired. So he started doing this as like a smaller business version of what he was doing before. He talked to his contractors, he talked to the providers of the flooring, and he basically very kindly got everybody to come down and has offered to do it for 19.6, which is a substantial thing. However, it has to be done quickly to maintain that price because people are doing it in their free time. And if we wait, that price goes back up. But as Carl mentioned, that room is one that we rent out. We tried to do a fundraiser for it. We only raised about $4,000 because people very obviously didn't want to give to the Meals on Wheels program because that's a little bit more critical. Flooring is a nice to have, but it doesn't feed people. So the flooring fundraising just kind of stopped, and that's what Carl and I were speaking about with, what could we do to get it done? Because it is becoming more and more critical that we bring in more of our own internal revenue sources, and renting that room out is a big one. When we talk about serving the 9 towns, yes, we serve 9 towns, but about 60% of our membership is Old Saybrook. Because we're located, obviously headquartered in town, of the, 3,000 people that we have come in every year. 60% of that does come from the town of Old Saybrook. So a lot of people want to be able to use that space we have, graduations and baby showers and bridal showers and a lot of birthday parties. But we have had people come in, look at the space and be like, okay, we'll get back in touch. And then they don't. And very understandably, when you see that room without tables in it. So this is just one of those things that it would really help us to be able to start generating a little bit more income on ourselves instead of constantly asking.
Paul,
Don't wanna be abrupt, but what's the real number?
What we would need is about 15,000 to get it done immediately. We've already, like I said, we've already raised, around 4,000 ourselves. And like the gentleman said, he thinks he can do it for 19.6.
yeah, the request in front of us is for 12.5, is that correct?
The request,
Yeah,
so Heather's request was for
10.
10+, and I brought it to the Board of Selectmen. And the Board of Selectmen made a recommendation to the Board of Finance for 15, so it can be done.
All for 15, sorry.
Just because they've raised $4,000 and they've been talking about this for months, and I'd rather them get it done, and now they're gonna have to raise another $4,000. Heather and I did talk about a matching program, but that's what the Board of Selectmen voted on. It's before you, and however you choose to move forward is fine.
What would the motion be?
The motion would be to appropriate, I'll just say $15,000 from the capital non-recurring fund for the purpose of, providing the funds to the estuary for flooring. We further to remove this motion to town meeting.
What she said, I move.
I second it.
Shouldn't it
Pretty
be
good.
15.6
Yeah, they need that 600,
to cover the difference, so?
19.
It's 19.6 and they've raised 4,000,
I just threw a number out.
so.
So will the motion and the seconder agree to 15.6,
That's fine by me.
going once? Okay, so we're at 15.6, is there any discussion? George,
Quick question, so in terms of timing, town meeting, how much longer we're gonna be stretching this out?
So I probably, not that much longer, I probably, since the board approved the aid expenditure. I could do these right at Board of Selectmen meeting in 2 weeks, neither one is controversial, and not large numbers, so. I think we could probably get these done relatively quickly, and I know we're coming up on surplus appropriation, so I don't wanna have too many town meetings, obviously, but I'll look at the timing, and if it makes sense to do it at a Board of Selectmen meeting quickly, then we'll do it. If the timing looks like it makes sense to do it with surplus, I'll do it that way. I'm just not sure, so, yeah.
okay. Can I just ask, you had mentioned that there was carpet there, is the new flooring gonna be not carpet?
Correct, it would be engineered vinyl, engineered or vinyl.
Kind of like what we have in our
Yes.
offices, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but something with texture because we do have to be aware of spills and slipperiness. Just so a textured vinyl would be most likely what we would go with.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, have a nice meeting.
You do.
Yeah, you too.
I think most of us know they do an incredible job. It's a great place.
Well, and I think also having that room developed more as a community-based room will help in other issues.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
So that's. Okay, so we're gonna go backwards on the agenda to the discussion and allocation of surplus funds. All right, you handed out, did you want to talk about that, or do you want? What's the,
You'll have to excuse me for standing. I have this, sometimes my hamstring tightens up. And, I don't know, it's been bothering me for a few months. It's almost like sciatica.
Nick, oh my God.
So,
Now if I stand up, but you'd be in real pain, so you wouldn't be standing.
well,
You don't want it to
Right.
be sciatica.
so, working off the surplus appropriation that Leanne mentioned earlier. And obviously keeping our rainy day fund at 17%, we were looking at a $270,000 transfer as the first transfer that we would request. What we've working with Leanne and on the auditor selection, Leanne said, working with Carl and Bruce, well, I would say probably, I don't know about you, Bruce, but it's probably been very much Leanne working on that, so let's not kid ourselves that you did a lot of that. But working on this, we tried to not, George, to a comment you made, I think a couple times, not do $1,005,000 one. So we really tried to consolidate this and look at projects that I think really should have some sort of allocation. I think we are pretty well set. The Acton Public Library, I'm guessing a number of about 650,000. They are very close to their goal of raising 2 million in non-municipal funds. They have a fundraiser that is occurring at the Cape in August, where they anticipate raising at least another 50,000. I had someone approach me. I was walking out of town hall and someone said to me, hey, do you have a minute? I said, yeah. And an anonymous donor who I know many years came up and said, I want to put up 25,000 and just tell them they have to match it. And so that's how that fundraiser, that comedy night is going to raise more than 50,000 probably. So with that, and talking to Victoria Miller, who is the fundraiser at the library, they're moving towards that $2 million number relatively quickly. In addition to that, I will tell this board, I've secured a pretty large, multiple $100,000 grant from another person. And with that and this 650, that'll put them over 5 million. So they will be able to bid this project and get it done, okay? I'm just guesstimating these numbers. I don't have the final numbers from Victoria Miller yet as to where they are. Does that match basically what this board remembers we were gonna do or not? I just wanna make sure,
yeah, there was,
kinda, sorta,
there was always the million that was hanging out there.
but we did 100, I think, already.
Yeah, but we did that out of, we did it out of capital
Right.
non-recurring because. we
And
had
this is 650, so it's a little less than a number we were talking about. I just wanna make sure that I'm not. The 100,000 on resiliency projects, I put that in there because, I know there are a lot of folks in town, this is a concern, and not only that, we've been very active on resiliency projects. We don't have anything lined up, but this would be money in theory that would be there for matching grants. I'm not married to this, it's a number we put in last year, I thought we'd put it in again this year because, you know, we've been very successful in getting these grants and I think there will be more in the future and more projects in the future, and we are moving forward with some of the projects. Chris Costa's in the middle of one right now with Fuss and O'Neill. The probate construction. I could show you guys after the meeting tonight. We're about, I'd say 75% done up there. I'm putting a number of 15,000 in there. That would truly offset the other towns. So there's 9 towns in the probate district. We have essentially agreed to split the cost. I'm saying this will benefit the town of Old Saybrook, I think, more than some of the other towns. I'm not married to this either. I'm putting it in there saying maybe the town of Old Saybrook invests a little bit more in this project and offsets some of the costs. And then we divide it after that. My thought was just that it does benefit the town of Old Saybrook to have the probate court, I believe, in town hall. Bringing whatever traffic they do bring, and maybe it also advantages some of the small businesses in our town to have that traffic come in. Human resources, we have a plan, we have 10,000 budgeted in 2026, fiscal 26. I thought we put 20,000 from surplus. So we'd have 30,000 in HR for next year, with the idea that for fiscal 27, assuming I'm doing the budget, we would budget $30,000. So in other words, we're building up the HR fund. So we will have 30,000 in for fiscal 26, 10,000 budgeted, 20,000 from an off budget account. For fiscal 27, it would be my intention to budget 30,000. And if we need an additional appropriation after that, come to the Board of Finance for an additional appropriation. But we want to get this account to a funding level that is sufficient for the needs of the town. From personal experience so far, I've been really satisfied with McGinnis, which is the company we're using. I'll be honest with you, Matt Pugliese has been kind of pushing on the HR button for a couple of years, and HR has kind of always been a little bit of a blurry target sometimes. You don't know why you need it sometimes, and you go to Pat McHale and you go to another lawyer, but now that we have someone on board, it's remarkable how much we use them. And it's been incredibly useful for the town to have these folks on board. And
What was the 30,000 used for?
just, we have projects.
We have projects, yeah, they gave us a whole list of things, they did like an
They did
assessment.
an audit.
An audit, and then we're kind of working from there to fill in the blanks and do the things that are on the audit. But mainly consulting, you know, if we have issues with an employee or whatever.
So that's the kind of thing, that when we actually are gonna go over this, you'll bring that letter or whatever to us so we can see what they've been doing and.
Yeah, I'm happy to show you what they've been doing,
Yeah,
yeah. They've been terrific, and they've been all over the map for us.
And it's nice with the, when laws change, you know, or if we have a question about like how to do this with workers' comp or something, just call them up and they're experts and they tell us what to do, it's great.
Oh, nice.
Really, really good. I mean, I never knew how much I'd use an HR company, and they're kind of a default now. So the flags on Main Street, the Exchange Club has asked us over the years for assistance in replacing flags and poles periodically, not often. And it's usually like $2,000 every couple of years or so. The requests don't come in every year. The Exchange Club doesn't like to ask for the money, but they periodically do ask for the money to help replace the poles and the flags. So I have a $10,000 line item in here just to make sure we have enough money in there should that request come in, and also to make sure that we have enough money for early voting, whether it be for this November or the following November, which is going to be a gubernatorial election. Leanne, you looked at that budget today. I mean, we have like a couple thousand in there right now for early voting.
Like 3,000 or 4,000.
We have about 3,000 or 4,000 from the funds that this board previously set aside. So just to make sure that, you know, going through various cycles of early voting to see where they need to be funded. We have new registrars, let's not forget that either. So I want to make sure that they have all the support they need to make sure Old Saybrook does everything we need to do for early voting. Traffic control, it says sidewalks Route 1, but it's for a variety of projects. So full disclosure, when the sidewalk projects on Route 1 were bid, and those projects are gonna start in August, that project is going to start in August. They do bid traffic control when they bid the project. But I think that that project could require more traffic control than they have. I wanna make sure that there's enough in there, and also, we're gonna be doing the project on Route 1 with the crosswalks. And that will require, and that's gonna be in August, that will require traffic control, and I'm guessing that traffic control will probably be $10,000 or $15,000 just for the Route 1 sidewalks, because they're gonna be going across 4 lanes, I'm asking for additional funding, and there's always a need for traffic control, whether it's for trees, tree plantings, anything we do.
Well, that, historically, that traffic control has been done by the police department.
It is done, it would be done by, but they charge us. We get charged because they have to pay the cops. And so it's not free to the town. What they don't charge us is the administrative fee for the vehicles. So we do get charged for police officer time. The OPEB, I'm gonna skip over the DPW garage. The OPEB account is essentially to pay, to bring the OPEB account into balance after a settlement was reached with a former employee.
Can you tell us what OPEB means?
Other post-employment benefits. So, what?
Say that again?
Other post-employment benefits. So,
When people retire or. when
sick
they're
time
off
that they
of
get
sick,
paid
yeah,
out,
sick
holiday time, vacation time that they get paid out. So let's, be straight here, when Chief Sparrow retired, he had a cache of sick days. Sick days, was
Yeah,
it?
everything.
Everything he had, I mean, despite anything that would be paid in addition to what he was owed, he was already owed a number that was approaching $200,000 if he just retired, here. In addition to that, there's going to be 1 year salary. I think everybody knows the deal. It's public. So we have money in that account. But what we want to do is not go, we want to make that account, this is one time, we want to make that account neutral, the impact on this retirement neutral to that account. So that's a big number, but the other option is just to go negative and have this account try to catch up over the next 10 years, but we thought we would put money towards that OPEB liability that we are going to have. And then in the spirit of maybe tackling a long-term project, I threw in the DPW garage. Now, we put that in there today. It's bigger than 1.5 million. It's, we did get a project estimate and we told them to go back to the drawing board because it was much bigger number, than either Bill or I anticipated spending. At the end of the day, I'm guessing it's probably a $2.5 to $3.5 million job to do what needs to be done there. So I think there's a couple ways to tackle this.
I'm just thinking about what a $2 million house looks like,
Keep it all right. There, in theory, that we could, when that project happens, we could say, okay, we have money here, we have to bond less. And therefore, the mill rate will be affected less as a result of having cash on hand to pay the first X number of dollars of the project. Or another way to do it would be to put money towards long-term liability. So take a chunk of the surplus this year and put it towards long-term liability payments, debt payments. I'm thinking more pension and debt, pension and bonded indebtedness. So if the market comes down, 5,000 points, 8,000 points, and that year well, it's happened before that. Our annual employer contribution has to go up we have a pension reserve fund that we want to be able to draw on, so. There's a couple ways to kind of approach this, but the idea that I'd like to present to the board is we have declining debt in our debt service. We have that coming up over the years, but we don't have so much that if we were to do the WPCA project and the DPW project and maybe whatever else might need to be done in town, that we would be able to keep that service number flat. Maybe putting some funds aside when you go out to bond and you have a $400,000 spike in debt service payments over your first, you can structure these sometimes so that your first 2 years spikes $400,000 over your current debt service payment. You are able to pay those 400,000 from an account that you might have set aside, and then the number comes back to where it was, so that you've avoided the spike, but you're getting your capital projects done, and maybe your debt service line stays flat for 10 years instead of going up. So try to minimize a number of projects. I think one year we had 25, you know? So what we tried to do this time was to really pare it down, not ask for, and if there are other things that come down the line during the year, we can come to a capital non-recurring request like we do typically with, like tonight. This would still put money into our capital non-recurring account, which has about $1.9 million in it, so it would still add to that account. One thing I'll say about the surplus, while again, it's a big number, you know, the state of Connecticut, and there are other municipalities, I think at the last meeting, I mentioned the town of Old Lyme has like a 28% reserve account. Ours is 17%, so they obviously had surplus years where they were putting money into their reserve account. We are not building our reserve account to 30%. We're instead tackling projects and keeping it at 17%. The state of Connecticut is dealing with some of these same surplus issues. The surplus issue, I think, is probably one of the biggest they've even had over the years.
Yeah, I haven't seen,
it, yeah.
It's big, it's big, it's as big as any year. And of course, there's gonna be, I think they relaxed some of the I'm not sure exactly what they did. But they've been paying down pension debt, which we don't have to do. But that's where the governor has chosen to spend their surplus money. So I'm not comparing the town to the state, but I think the state is in good position for a lot of the same reasons that maybe some of the towns in more fortunate towns are in a good financial position. So those are just some ideas. I'm throwing them out there. I'm not, you know, some of the things we've been thinking about, and that's it.
are there comments people would like to make?
Not so much a comment, just a trivial type question.
Trivia?
Trivia, yeah.
Yeah,
The 9 towns that are in the probate district, are they the same 9 towns that are in the estuary?
No,
No, they're different.
I think it's a different catchment.
Yeah, just when we both heard 9. I
Slightly
was
different, slightly different. I'm not,
Who are our 9 probate towns, do you know? I'm sorry.
no, Clinton, Westbrook, Old Saybrook, Deep River, Chester, Essex, Killingworth, I know, I believe Haddam and maybe East Haddam, something like that.
That's interesting.
Something, you know, I'm pretty sure about that. So, yeah. I don't have a number on that. I don't know what we've spent on that project, the date, the probate court.
Oh, I don't
project.
know.
But I'll have to get a number on that. That's gonna be probably a $50,000 project. Anyway, go ahead, John.
I just have a question. What
Yeah.
percentage is this 3.3 million through the surplus? Is it 6%, 5%?
Of the town budget, you
Yeah,
mean?
right.
a little over 6.
Huh?
I think a little over 6, because the
Yeah,
budget's.
Probably about 6.
So what, do you have any idea of what would be an exorbitant increase in surplus? Like 9.3 to me was exorbitant. You know, approaching 10% on a surplus, I
Okay.
think would be high.
Okay.
Do you have any frame of reference?
So I am tending to look more at the surplus as it plays against the expenditure budget. Like, I wanna make sure that are we spending about what we said we would spend? And the surplus, you know, I was looking at last year's numbers from the state, and the state numbers were about $500,000 higher than what we projected last year. And that's a revenue surplus. So, I mean, I look at it very like from the expenditure side and the revenue side. And I just want to make sure that if we're asking for a certain number, we're spending close to that number. On the revenue side, I think it's a slippery slope when you start saying, you know, should we anticipate $1.5 million worth of interest income every year? You know, probably not. I think it was wise to increase the interest revenue this past year. I think that was a good move. And we bumped up a couple other revenues too. But I think, you know, when you look at the history of the interest income, and we have a president who wants to basically decapitate the Fed chair and have interest rates, you know, lowered by 1.5 points, that would affect our interest income immediately and probably bring, if we were operating at that, we'd probably be looking at a 4% surplus on that. So we're in a time of, I don't even think it's high interest rates, but it's interest rates that have been higher than we've lived through in the last 20 years. And therefore the revenue we've generated because we've had a higher reserve balance than we've ever had. Back in the day, John, when we were both on the Board of Finance, the reserves were 5%. And we didn't have a capital non-recurring fund of $2 million that we're earning. Now we're earning all this money on 4.5% as opposed to having less money earn on 2%. So it's not a direct answer to your question, but
I agree. I just feel that
yeah,
a surplus to a taxpayer.
Yep.
Really means perhaps if it reaches a 10% factor that he's paying more than he
Yeah.
should, or she, should say he or she is paying more than they could. And I'd like to recognize that in some fashion. Either we put in a threshold for a number, like 10%
Yeah.
or 6%,
Yep.
whatever it would be,
Okay.
whatever people would and set up a fund, again, as I mentioned in the past, to reduce in a future year at the determination by the first selectman of whether or not that mill rate has to decrease, and he would have that fund, or she would have that fund available to buy the mill rate down. And I know we've talked about this in the past, and I remembered Pace buying the mill rate down one time. Am I incorrect in that?
you're not wrong about that.
Yeah, I remember
No,
that.
he did, $400,000.
Yeah, I forget the
Mike,
number.
Mike used 400,000 in reserves 1 year. And he had to do it the following year, but he had to get out of there at some point. At some point, that $400,000 has to be built back into the budget now. Because once you start using reserves to offset the mill rate, you gotta keep doing that. And Old Line did it this year, so I'm curious to see what they're gonna do next year.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay.
Only in the sense that you're only dealing with the dollars set aside in the fund. You're not going to take money from, or put money in an operating budget to cover that fund. If in fact you think you want to buy down the mill rate. You can only use the dollars that you've had by the increase over the threshold number. There's no excess funding of that particular item. So you're only dealing with that number.
except for when you go into the next year. You go into the next year, and if you've used your off-budget fund to reduce the mill rate, all our contracts and everything go up another 3%. Now you don't have the off-budget fund anymore, and so there's a catch-up that you have to do. I think that's, when we were at the meeting last time, that's what we were saying, is that there is a point, even if you're initially using the off-budget account, there's a point where the operating revenues need to catch up to the expenditure.
But the expense, what you're using surplus funds for now, what is the difference between setting aside money offline from the surplus and any effect that these funds would have on the forthcoming budget of the next year? It seems to me you're dealing with the same dollar structure.
You're dealing with capital versus operating. That's the difference. You're dealing with one-time funding versus possibly setting it, using reserve funds to pay the fire marshal and the building official, which are not, they're operating or.
But you're still using surplus funds for the taxpayer allocation. You're still using surplus funds.
We are using surplus funds,
Right.
but one goes towards one-time funding and one goes towards every year funding.
No,
Okay,
no,
alright.
the surplus does not go towards every year funding unless you retain an increase over your threshold number every
Well,
year.
then, but that's true. And so once you attain that, you get that 10% surplus. Now you're saying, okay, use it to offset operating costs. That's,
Right down the middle rate, yeah.
well, that
Yeah.
is using it to offset operating costs. And then next year, you have to find the money to make that up. Because you, go ahead, George.
I don't get it.
I I just spoke to John. I think I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand what he's trying to get at. I don't think he's trying to propose that we buy down mill rate for operation. I think he's buying down mill rate for the one-off. And so if I may use your list as example, right? And so your public construction, human resources, flags, OPEB could all be, let's hope OPEB one off, but they're all almost operational. If we didn't have a surplus, you'd be paying that anyway.
Yeah.
That garage, let's say it's $3 million, right? It's $3 million. If we didn't have any surplus, you would have to bond that, right? And if you bonded that, Leanne would do her magic
Yeah.
and the mill would go up and so on.
Yeah.
Or we had a surplus, we put aside however much money towards that $3 million. And by the time we actually do that garage, we pay off 2 million of the 3 million, and we're buying down the mill rate for that 1 year. It's a one-off. That that garage will last
Yeah.
30 years.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I agree, like, if that's what you were saying, I would agree.
But I think, but to add to that though, is that there's acknowledgement to the town that we have.
Essentially not, we've used surplus to not tax them additional dollars.
And there's actually a recognition.
With a necessary project, with a project that we were gonna do anyway.
And so there's acknowledgement that, hey, we have a surplus and we acknowledge that and we.
And whether that is saying X number of dollars for the DPW garage or putting it in a long-term liability account.
Sure.
That is then subsequently used when the debt service goes up and you buy the spike, essentially, you buy the spike. Maybe 2 years in a row so that you don't get the spike. I can stop talking, I feel like I've talked too much.
No, and so the only, again, I'm gonna end up putting words in John's mouth and he can tell me I'm wrong. But I think the only, the difference in that is the farther you get from the project, let's say the DPW, throw it into this fund, then it becomes less obvious to the taxpayer what's happening. So it seems to me that and in honor of this conversation, let's take the DPW garage, and let's say, yeah, $1.5 million is coming out of the surplus. But let's talk about that $1.5 million as being a, debt service / taxpayer mitigation, something along that line. So there's a clear recognition that these dollars are being used to reduce your liability when we have to do this garage.
What does $1.5 million look like on a 20-year bond?
Well, I,
At
I,
5%.
I think the different side of that is particularly if you front load. If you front load, it could be significant in that regard. So, I, Leanne or Magic or somebody
Well-
can do the run.
We have to be careful. So remember the spending cap you were asking me about? If we start manipulating the mill rate through these exercises, we could then, when we do that formula, cancel out our ability to receive grants.
Okay, well, that's
So to be careful.
How would that happen?
just why you're here.
So, yeah, we can talk about it later, but it's the formula that I do every single year, send it into OPM. And if our budget fluctuates by more than the level of inflation or some number that they
Yeah,
give
right.
us, then if we go up more, but basically what they're saying, well, if you have enough money to increase your budget and then you don't need this grant, it's kind of the.
But do they include bond?
And they include bonded indebtedness, so you're all saying the same thing in my mind. If we have a reason, and I do not, GFOA procedures, other things, like it's a red flag if we use the rainy day fund. So you wanna call it something else, it's a red flag if you use the rainy day fund for OPM and the grading agencies and all that other stuff. But if you put it into a reserve, long-term liability reserve fund, it does the same thing that John is saying, because we would just say, all right, but we would target things, okay, we don't want the budget to go up that much, so we're gonna, like we did with the debt service, we're not gonna let that increase, so that comes down, and therefore the mill rate comes down, so it would just be how we use it. And I know that the message that you wanna get out to our residents, that we should get out somehow, is that we are managing this budget process in such a way that we are really keeping the mill rate tight, and we're not misusing funds or being, inappropriate about how we handle them. And John is looking for a way that it looks very concrete as to what we're doing.
Right.
I don't know
And
the
get
answer
the
to that
idea
question.
across to the taxpayer.
Pardon?
Getting the idea that
Yeah.
you just
Right.
said across to the taxpayer.
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
So would you have, in terms of what it's called, would you have is it a difference without a distinction to say, we have a long-term liability fund, which we do,
Mhm,
basically our pension reserve fund,
right,
would you have an objection to a DPW off-budget garage fund?
no,
No.
no. So, I mean, what we are doing is prudently managing the taxpayers' money, period. Because we are taking this list of surplus dollars and using them for things that we would only put in the budget at some point down the future, so if you wanna make different reserves for these different projects, then go ahead and do so, but,
Right,
I mean,
so
it's fine.
maybe between now and when we see the final list, we can work a little bit on nomenclature. But I think we are all, we're all generally in agreement. I think we understand what we're trying to say. Now it's a question of how do we say it so that it's not inside baseball?
Right.
What are you looking
Messaging.
for action?
On this,
Well, we
So-
don't even have our numbers
well,
yet, so.
all right, so I hope to. For the first meeting in August, if there is a meeting, I can also, I don't know if we have business, I can also send out a memo, depending on what vacation schedules, whatever. I should have the first pass of what the real surplus is, and there's always a few stragglers, and then I can also send out the memo with, some of the ideas that we have here, for the first meeting in August. Between the first meeting and the second meeting, we could firm up those numbers if I have, some changes. Probably the capital non-recurring fund would be the last piece to be moved,
Mhm.
kind of the
Right, catch all.
number to catch all. We could even, do it in September, the first meeting of September, that piece I don't really, as long as we get something approved and the town meeting can be in September. Is that what you wanna know?
No, yeah, I wanna know, I mean, I think we have to work backwards. When do you want the town meeting to approve? And then we need to work backwards.
My
So-
preference would be for it to occur before the end of August, all else being equal, but if it goes into September, I will deal with it.
Okay,
Cause I wanna make sure everybody's comfortable, I don't wanna be forcing anything on anyone.
Right. Okay. That's gonna work. You are gonna talk about meetings in August, so we'll bear that in mind. Have we finished this conversation? Are we? People kind of know where,
A
okay,
really quick question.
yeah,
This does not include Board of Ed.
Does not, so I have to get their
So-
numbers too.
Potentially,
yes,
could be another $750,000.
Could be
You
whatever.
you estimate under $1 million, right, is what you said. So,
But they usually ask for something, or they have historically, we have a new superintendent, I don't know what they're gonna do to.
like whether it's air conditioning or.
right,
put it
historically, we
within
put
reserve.
money into that fund.
Yeah.
Right.
With a lot of their surplus.
right.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Other? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on. We are now to the selectmen's
I'll
report.
be quick. Thank you for that conversation. So. Okay. Share. One other thing that I didn't put in here because it was just another thing. Is America 250. So next year is our America 250 celebration, right? The state of Connecticut is asking every town to participate. And so we have engaged the Historical Society, the library, and other nonprofits, and we've also talked to Saybrook Point Inn wants to jump in on this. And what we're thinking is it would be a weekend of like Friday, Saturday, culminating in Celebrate Saybrook on Sunday. For America 250. And we would do all kinds of events. The Historical Society is talking about planting, I'm gonna get the number wrong and it's embarrassing, 54 or 55 trees for all the signers of the Declaration of Independence. So like having trees all over town that have been recently planted to recognize each signer of the Declaration. I know the library, Amanda Brower is chairing a committee right now, so at some point, that committee may ask for some money, and I don't think that's unreasonable for the town to put on a celebration or at least some acknowledgement to the state that we are participating. So I just want to just put that out there for future discussion. You're gonna love this one. So the fire department eventually is gonna need a new ladder truck. Okay? Now, good news, bad news. What do you want for it now? The good news is we finish our payments on the trucks in 2027. I thought you said
2020, 30.
2030.
Yeah.
All right. I thought you said okay.
And that's the good news.
We're in fiscal 26. They are talking about ordering a truck that is about a 1.8 million. We don't need to do anything today. It's a ladder truck. Joe will talk about it at a future date. It won't even be ready for 3 years. So the idea would be maybe in fiscal 27 or 28 to maybe start funding that while the other ones roll off, and then there's a plan, borrowing from ourselves. We have those other two, and I talked to Joe today, they're in good shape. With all their other capital requests, but believe me, We have lots of projects going on right now. We have active, Beaver Dam Trail. They're making terrific progress over there. They've already put in a temporary road. They put in a sleeve, so there's a stream that runs up, the culvert is going to serve. And they put in a sleeve to divert the water, so now they're just gonna be able to get the work done.
Mm.
It's great. Chalkers Mill Pond Dam, that work is beginning. That's at, Merritt Lane and Ingham Hill Road. I was out there for a meeting yesterday. The Connecticut Water Company is doing their work in front of Dairy Queen. When that finishes, Bill Layden is gonna start his sidewalk project from Westbrook towards the Dairy Queen. They're gonna start on the Westbrook side. That is gonna be August, September, October. And the crosswalks are going to be done in August of this year. That's when B&W paving plans on starting. So, and then we got the steep grant for the Ferry Road soccer field. That project is going to be out to bid this fall for construction next spring. So we're gonna have all these projects, that's an easy project too. I mean, it's a bigger project, but it's digging, it's stone, it's, you know. What? The field. I don't think that's I think that's a 3-month, we're gonna have all this money
They said the first time, so.
gone by June 30th. I think a year from now, every one of those projects is gonna be gone, and that's like 5 million, you know, it's a significant number of projects. It's really gonna change the town a little bit. It's gonna there's gonna be a lot of different things in town, so. I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, you guys see it, and Bruce, you worked in government. Paul, you worked in government too, but it takes a long time. We've been talking about these projects
Forever.
for years. And now they're all just, the timing is such that they're all just happening. So,
The Dairy Queen Route 1, are they gonna leave the road like that, or are they gonna make the road better?
so that right now is a Connecticut water project. So what they are doing is digging, doing work at
Yeah.
night and then patching during the day.
Terrible patch.
Because they're just going in the next
Well,
day.
I'm not the only one saying.
So what they're gonna do, what Connecticut Water is going to do, when they are done with their job, they're gonna put down a smoother patch. Actually, they have to finish what they have to do a finish work, but there is one point in the road. And I forget what it is, but Bill Layden has to get in there, so there's gonna be one section of the road, maybe as big as this room, not much bigger than that. That is gonna remain a patch, but the rest of the road is going to have to be finished by Connecticut Water
Okay, good.
and repaved.
I'm glad to know that.
And that project's gonna be done in 3 weeks.
I have people asking me, and it's just like,
So-
hoping it'll get better.
Anyway, that's, so there's a lot going on right now, and I think it's awesome to just be getting these projects done. Because it just takes years, to get stuff where you're actually paying people to do the work, which is the exciting part, but
Eric,
The crosswalks, that
Yeah.
August
yes,
on Main Street.
yes. I know.
Any update from the plans for the remaining two?
No,
Yeah.
nope, unfortunately, there's been some health issues, on that, so no.
It's a start, we got 3 of them.
Chief of Police, there's a meeting tomorrow night. We anticipate narrowing the candidate, so I'm pretty sure most of this is public. We went from 34 to 14. 3 dropped out, so we're down to 11, and tomorrow night, we hope to narrow the list to 4 to 6. That will go to the next phase. And then out of that will come probably 3, and then a choice will be made. So moving right along, it's been excellent. I will tell you that the consultant has said to me, this is an excellent pool. He hasn't seen a pool this strong in a while. And to which I looked at him and said, why wouldn't we have a strong pool? Who wouldn't wanna be chief of police in Old Saybrook and live here? And they don't have to live here, but work here. I just think it's such a great town. So that's moving along. And whatever, if you have any questions.
questions,
Yeah.
Carl? Okay, now, we will continue on. We're at the comments from board members. Any comments? Anyone else? Any voice? Public comment? Do you have any member of the public?
That's a reporter.
Eric, if you know your report, you'd like to raise your hand? Look.
Let's go.
All right. No. Okay, and the only comment I have is, as we were referencing before, the August meetings.
Yes,
So first question is, do people know whether their vacation schedules, our meetings in August right now are the fifth and the 19th? So is everybody going to be here for both of those meetings, or do we already have kind of a lack of quorum? Anybody know?
I'll be here. All right, we'll hear.
Okay, we'll work as if we are. Then the question is business. What I heard Leanne say was, if we did not meet on the fifth, she would prepare everything around the surplus in memo form, get it out to us, for us to then be able to discuss and possibly vote on the 19th. Are we comfortable doing it that way, or do we want to meet on the fifth, have a discussion, and then do a final vote on the 19th? Anybody care?
I think it'd be okay with one meeting, if that's the case. Because typically, just procedurally, right, Board of Ed, once they finalize their budget, typically what they've done is they send you guys a memo or a letter, an email with what their surplus is, and then include their request as well, right? If they have requests to put X amount of dollars in certain funds, right?
And then I add that to the memo, so it's all in one place for the Board of Finance.
Okay, so if we're comfortable with that, I would say let's move forward and cancel the meeting on the fifth.
yes,
And then we will meet on the 19th. George?
sounds good.
But if you start getting numbers ahead of the 19th, can we send those out?
Oh,
I
yeah.
will, as soon as I get them, and just so you all know, it's preliminary. I just
Right.
wanna stress that. It
Yeah.
won't stray too much from what I send out, but if, you know, move a little bit from the final numbers. And the capital non-recurring will be the number that will be modified. Yes.
I mean, what's interesting about, I mean, I don't know how the new superintendent would do, but previously in the schools, they had a surplus. They'll just take it first and then give you the rest. They're not gonna give you and say you want some back. Well,
Well, in the past couple of years, they've done that. They've actually put it in front of us.
they,
and
yes,
then we,
last couple of years.
right.
With requests.
Yes,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Net zero.
yeah.
Right.
Julie did not do that. Julie would just take it first. And then give it to us.
Okay, any other business? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Any opposed?
Thank you.